Alright, I don't know how they did it, but Capcom has somehow surpassed their Cap God status into an upper echelon of enlightenment, because not only did they give us the release dates for the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, but yeah, they also announced a second Fighting Collection, which is pretty sick. Man, it is an incredible time to be a Capcom fan. We've got a new Monster Hunter with Monster Hunter Wilds on the horizon. We've got some new Resident Evil stuff that's probably going to hit within the next 6 months. And we now have these incredible fighting game collections that are coming out like crazy. Also, Square Enix, could you give us Final Fantasy fans maybe a new Dissidia game, or like a new Final Fantasy fighting game, like a Final Fantasy Fighters or a Final Fantasy Versus style game, because that would be pretty sick. But anyway, let's get to this Capcom Collection news. So during the Nintendo Direct, again, of all places, Nintendo is really getting these big scoops for their Directs, which is super cool. They not only gave us those dates for the Marvel vs. Capcom collection, but they also announced a brand new collection, which some of us were hoping for and speculated on. It has now been made official, the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, which will be headlined by the CVS game. So we'll get into that very shortly, but let's go over those release dates. Yes, multiple dates for the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. So Capcom has been doing this kind of staggered release thing where they have a physical release date and then the digital release date, with the digital being the earlier drop. The newest Dead Rising digital deluxe remastered special edition thing is also doing this, but for Marvel vs. Capcom, the physical edition is going to be dropping in November on the 22nd, and the digital will be hitting on September 12th. So just a couple of weeks away, which is pretty cool. Again, it's a little bittersweet because I did pre-order the physical edition. So in this situation, either I'll cancel the physical edition and just do the digital so I can get my hands on it right away and just start playing and having fun. But they also announced that the physical edition will be getting an exclusive comic book, like an art book, which, as someone who grew up a huge fan of these characters and their designs, that I think is worth the price alone. So I might just have 2 copies of this game, one digital, one physical, plus that art book, which is going to be filled with just so many cool, beautiful character art concept stuff that I'm just really looking forward to looking at. And that alone would have been enough, but yes, a second Capcom Fighting Collection has hit the internet. We got the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, which is going to be giving us 8 more games that we were all hoping for, and it's a pretty big list, so let's go over them really quick. We've got Capcom vs. SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro. We've also got Capcom vs. SNK 2 Mark of the Millennium 2001, which is my personal favorite edition, and they also did say on the website you can play the original version of CVS2 or the EO version, so they're giving us options here. And they're also building off of the Japanese versions for some of these games too, which is super sick. We've also got Capcom Fighting Evolution, which I know is not the greatest game, but you know, it's sandwiched in between other games, so I can't really complain too much. Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper. Now, from my understanding, Upper was not only the final version of the Alpha 3 series, but it's also technically the arcade version, I believe, and I think maybe one of the better releases of that one. I genuinely really love Street Fighter Alpha 3. The one I played the most was on arcade on MAME. Again, me and my childhood friend would play the crap out of that game. I also played the crap out of the PSP version like daily. After school, I'd come home, finish my homework, and just grab my PSP and play the crap out of that game. It was so much fun. So having Alpha 3 back, I love that game so much. Again, I think it's probably my favorite Street Fighter of all time. I just really, really love Alpha 3 in particular. We've got Project Justice. Unfortunately, no old school rival schools, but Project Justice, I believe, is the sequel, so that kind of makes sense. It's one of the newer games. So having, you know, rival schools, Project Justice in some format is super sick. We've got Power Stone and Power Stone 2. As someone who did not play these games growing up, I am super excited to get my hands on them. I cannot wait. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And then we have Plasma Sword, Nightmare of Bilstein. Now, as for a release date, there's no firm date, but it will be coming 2025. I would assume maybe in the earlier half of 2025, maybe give like 6 months in between this release with the MVC collection. But this is super cool. When that MVC collection first dropped, we were all just losing our minds, so excited that these franchises were able to finally come back. And we were hoping and crossing our fingers that maybe sometime in the future, the far distant future, we would get a CVS CVS collection, and it turns out that distant future was just a few months later, which is super awesome. And of course, all of these versions are going to have all of the bells and whistles that you come to expect from a fighting collection from Capcom, including one of the most important features, rollback netcode. You gotta have smooth online play, lobby systems, training modes, ranked matches, player matches, an art museum so you can look at all of the cool concept art. There's a jukebox to listen to all the incredible music, especially from CVS2. Like, I think the title of the song is This Is the True Love We're Making. One of my all-time favorite fighting game bangers. So good, perfectly encapsulates like that late 90s, early 2000s, like UK pop dance scene that I just love so much. And then of course other things like one button specials and one button supers, and the ability to unlock the super secret powerful characters just from the menu. You literally just flip a switch in the menu, and now you've got like Bison, Shinakuma, all these really great options that you normally had to play through the games or had to do some weird thing to unlock them. Now you can just flip a switch and they're there waiting for you. And the website even mentions co-op, so getting back in there, doing some dramatic battles in Alpha 3 is going to be super fun. Again, me and my childhood friend, when we would play these games on MAME, get on Calera, we would do dramatic battles for hours on Alpha 3, putting it on the hardest difficulty possible, seeing how far we could get, and then eventually we would reach M. Bison and try our best to Eiffel Tower that asshole and finish the game. So many great, wonderful memories, and that's why I make these videos, is because I grew up so big into fighting games. I was never great at them, but I loved playing them. I loved the characters, their stories, the music, just the overall mechanics of these games were just so mind-blowing to me as a kid because I had never really played these types of games before. You know, so many of us were used to like Mario and Sonic, and then eventually you broaden your horizons and you start playing RPGs, you start playing fighting games, and you see what games really have to offer, and it just opens up your mind and takes what could be a very narrow perspective on gaming and just widens the crap out of it. So I'm really excited to get back into CVS2 in particular. Again, that's my favorite personal CVS. I love the groove system. I love the music. I love the overall look of that game. It is just so much fun. And Power Stone. I remember people just talking up a storm about Power Stone as a kid. I never got a chance to play it. I could never find it in my area to rent it or buy it, but I am just so ready to jump into Power Stone, especially now that it has online play, and just play with people and just kind of feel like a kid again. This is going to be so freaking awesome, man. And again, I got to give thanks to one person in particular, like I did in our MVC video, but that's Maximilian Dude. Again, without someone like Max, who championed these games for years, 10 plus years of his career, he always made it an effort to take these games that were either forgotten or people didn't know about and show them off and show how cool and feature rich these were and how important they were to the overall FGC in general. And with all the noise that he made over the years, that really perked up the ears of these companies, but it also perked up the ears of everyone in the FGC. And because of Max, other people were able to start their own campaigns and again take that ball, the FGC ball, and just run with it and put these games out there even more. So it really was like a ripple effect stemming from Max and all of the crazy work he's done to try and get these games back out there. And it just goes to show you that, yeah, you make enough noise, eventually these companies are hopefully gonna listen. And granted, there were things that had to happen behind the scenes for this stuff to work. The relationship between Marvel and Capcom had to be mended after, you know, the kind of disaster that was MVCI. And then you have the relationship between Capcom and SNK that had to be mended, and that started years ago with those Evo posters, and now we're getting this CVS-led collection. SNK dropped SVC Chaos over the weekend at Evo in July, which was just kind of, you know, a super shocking thing for them to do. So it's so cool to see these companies like listen to the fans, and it's like a really cool healing moment for fighting games, and just to have these collections back with like usually the best versions of them makes them so much more accessible. You don't have to emulate them or go on Fightcade anymore to challenge people. You can just buy these versions and just experience what a lot of us experienced growing up, but now with so many more features. And this is just super cool news, man. Just kind of, there's always things within gaming that brings us back to our childhoods, for whether it's a brief period of time or an extended period of time that lets us relive our glory days of our youth, which is just so cool to see. And I cannot wait for these collections to be released. Again, these are coming out on PS4, Nintendo Switch, and Steam. Unfortunately, again, no Xbox version. The rumors that were going around were that the framework that these games run on just may not work on the current Xbox ecosystem. But there's also some rumors of maybe Microsoft just doesn't have the money to, you know, do a partnership with these companies to bring these games to Xbox, because they did spend $70 billion acquiring Activision and Blizzard, which, you know, may or may not have been a good idea. And before I forget, unfortunately, there is no cross-play between any of the versions of these games, but hopefully the games will be popular enough that there will be tons of people playing each individual version, and you won't have to really worry about whether or not you can find a match or cross-play in general. But with that being said, that is the video. I am Curious Corduroy. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 officially becoming a thing led by the CVS games? And did you play these games growing up? And if so, what was your own personal favorite and why? I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.